I mean, no offense to Al Perez, but you think that he's a guy that can be telling Ric Flair he's not losing to him? You know what I mean?
No, that's where he got fired that night.
That's crazy. And he didn't want to feud with Sting either. Like I mean, he is under the hood at one point as the Black Scorpion when they go through this feud, but he didn't want a job to Sting as out. In the end.
I, I, I guess that's what started to happen. That I was not really involved in that at that time. Not many people knew it was going to be Rick.
When you look at it though, Al Perez, no offense. I mean, I like Al Perez as decent wrestler and everything else, but he had no name cachet, no star power at this point whatsoever. It's not like the next year when you guys bring in the Phantom and it's Rick Rude. You know what I mean? This is Al Perez of all people.
Yeah, but you don't know what deals were being made. Do you know what I mean? In Texas, the boys, all three that were still alive, lost, two, Kevin and Kerry, lost in Dallas against Perez and defeated the boys on a few occasions of rematches. So there might have been a deal made because Fritz, his TV at the time was the best.
I don't know.
Next,
Well, but on a national scale, do you think that people even knew who Al Perez was?
no, but Vince had at one time uh, the Texas tape was going all over, and they went to Boston in a rainy fall night, similar to this, and they went to a stadium that was used once a year for a football game between South Boston and East Boston. A dilapidated stadium that drew $88,000. There was rumors at one time that they were going to hook up.
It's I don't know. For some reason, I just can't see that being like anything as far as like, hey, it's Al Perez. Like people aren't really familiar because Sting does beat him, aka him as the Black Scorpion, at a show. So Sting beats him, but it's more of a house show type thing. But he does also defeat him at Clash of the Champions as well in a bit of a longer match, Clash of Champions 12, which was the original Fall Brawl, the Mountain Madness, if you will. So he does beat him as the Black Scorpion at Clash of the Champions over the fall. So it's almost like, okay, where are we going with this? Like, what's like the plan here with Al Perez and Sting? Because it doesn't seem like that's going to be a Starcade level main event.
Well, they did it on the Texas TV, which was the best produced TV in the country, even above Vince's at one time. So it took them a year to get Bob Backlund over on TV for a year. He just came in for one solid year. They could have maybe done that with Al Perez.
Now he was in WWF in 1990 as well. Even up until July, he was in WWF. So does Ole think, okay, like okay, WWF got him from world class. Then we're taking him from WWF. Is that his thinking too? That he thinks he's a star because he was in WWF?
That could have been. I didn't know Ole's thinking all the time, but Al Perez had everything going for him. He could talk. He had Gary Hart as a manager, one of the greatest managers of all times. Uh, he could have turned babyface up there with the Latino population. Uh, who knows what could have happened. You know, they had Rocker as the main guy in the 50s. Then they had Pedro. Who knows? It took Vince a year to get Bob over, and he was just doing TVs, no house shows. So things could have happened.
But it's almost like, okay, Al Perez, Black Scorpion, I don't know about this, but if you actually look into it of what they're hinting at as a fans, were you guys trying to tease that it was Ultimate Warrior, who was the WWF champion at this point? But were you actually trying to tease Warrior or no?
I don't know if Foley was, but if he was, it was the wrong thing to do. And that's why Rick ended up being the Black Scorpion that night.
Because you guys basically needed somebody, right? I mean, you needed a bigger name, right?
Well, think about this. Rick got the belt back. Would the attendance been bigger if it was announced Flair versus the Black Scorpion?
Maybe, yeah.
Would the house show rather pay-per-views be bigger?
Well, if they announced Sting versus Flair, I would think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you like Sting versus Black Scorpion just as a main event, let's say on the poster or on the paper, promoting the pay-per-view? Do you like that? Hey, it's Sting versus a mystery guy.
No. No, I didn't.
So
But
where were you? Where were you at this point?
I was not working. I was not wrestling, but I was working with Ole. But I didn't even know that Rick was going to win the belt back as the Black Scorpion.
Well, we'll get into it, but he loses this one. Then about a month later in New Jersey at a house show, he actually does get the belt back, but cementing the full heel turn and getting the belt back. But it's just so weird that the Black Scorpion, it felt very, I don't know, corny, I guess. I guess I could say would be the nicest way to put it. Like this gimmick. Did like Ole really think this was like a cool gimmick?
He did all the talking for Al,
Yeah, right.
so he must have placed his money on Al. Or maybe I've heard him say that, he wasn't a big Flair fan. Have you heard that?
Ole wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what's weird about that? He kind of was bringing up like the 70s, almost like he was thinking that Flair was like who he met in the 70s. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hey, we were the most over guys in this territory. You're lower on the like he didn't realize Flair surpassed him.
Yep. Yep. So,
And surpassed him by a mile.
yeah. And Al coming in as short a period as he did and really never got over the way you get a guy over. If they had Al get guys over, or guys get Al over like Goldberg, it might have been a different thing.
Did you see some of the magic tricks and the voice stuff and he's
Yeah.
going to steal a woman from the crowd and he's going to hide and then poof, she's gone and he disappears and they laugh and Sting has to, act that he's upset. Did you see all this stuff? Like, what was your reaction to it?
Yeah, I thought it was bogus.
Pretty corny. Even as a kid, I'm like, this is kind of like hokey corny for freaking WCW. What are they doing?
Yeah.
It felt like they were almost trying to steal a page out of the WWF book a little bit with some of the stuff too, sports entertainment stuff.
Yeah. And later on, the Black Midnight Rider beat Ric Flair, and I came up with the idea that uh, I went to Geico and said, "Yeah, you can have a champion that has a mascot on, but he has to tell the president who he is and show who he is." So that continued the Flair Dusty
Yep.
rivalry.
Oh yeah. It's just one of those things where you look at the Black Scorpion. It's like, okay, it's Al Perez is like a fart in church. I mean, that stinks. It's like, are they teasing Ultimate Warrior because Warrior's in WWF and he's the champion, so it's not Warrior, but you keep saying it's somebody from Sting's past, and then it's like he keeps it going for 3 more months after Al Perez is fired, and like he doesn't really have an end game. You know what I mean? Like it's just not sound booking.
It was not sound booking at all. I think that they thought that Al would put Rick over, and then ultimately maybe drop it to Sting, and then Sting and Flair. But he didn't want to put him over in his hometown.
And Al Perez.
Yeah, and I don't think Ole understood that.
So in Ole's mind, Al Perez was going to be like a future main eventer for WCW for years to come. In Ole's mind.
Yeah, and I also think that he was doing this maybe as a transitional champion. You know what I mean?
Yep. To me, it's memorable, but not in a good way as far as the Black Scorpion. And that voice. What the hell was Ole doing with that voice?
Trying out for Darth Vader.
Oh, man. Seems like it.